Hello, my name is Christina Tobin. I'm the founder of the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and you're joining us on the Free and Equal Network today here at Politicon at the Nashville Music Center. And I ran into this guy I have not seen for almost a decade. This is one of probably the most relentless individuals that never gives up, that keeps fighting for the people, standing up for the people, rising for the people. We have Howie Hawkins here from New York, our Green Party nominated for the presidential candidate of the United States. Welcome, Howie.
Thank you. I'm seeking the Green nomination. Our convention is next summer.
Excuse me, seeking the nomination.
So let's not offend the other candidates.
Whoops, it was a genuine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, that's all. Just, I'm seeking it. I'm running hard, and I hope to get it. And I'm trying to build a coalition of independent left parties. I just got the Socialist Party nomination yesterday, and there are about 8 independent progressive parties at the state level, from the Progressive Party of Oregon to the Labor Party in South Carolina. We're also going to try to get them and build a broad, united front for the independent left as an alternative to the 2 corporate parties, Democrats and Republicans.
Beautiful. Well, you weren't seeking in the past. You actually were the New York governor in 2010, 14, and 18 for the Green Party candidate you ran.
Yes, and the goal there was to get a ballot line. That was the primary goal, which we did each time. You need 50,000 votes in New York to qualify for the next election cycle, next 4-year election cycle.
That's
But we
high.
also ran to advance issues. So everybody's talking about the Green New Deal now. I was the first candidate in the United States to campaign for a Green New Deal in 2010. We're coming out of the Great Recession, and Governor Cuomo saying, I'm the real Tea Party candidate. He was the Democrat. A Republican was even crazier, and he's talking about cutting state spending, cutting public employment, cutting the education budget on an austerity program. So our Green New Deal was the Hawkins prosperity plan versus the Cuomo austerity plan. So it was funding on basic economic human rights like employment and education, and then a big public investment in clean energy to get the economy going. And we've kept running on that. It's become the signature issue of the Green Party over the last decade. Jill Stein ran on it for president in 2012 and 2016. And then it went viral when the Sunrise Movement and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat in outside Pelosi's office. And now they polled in December, and 80% of the people want a Green New Deal, including 64% of Republicans, according to that poll. And even though the Democratic leadership, Pelosi and Schumer, have killed it, that non-binding resolution that AOC and Ed Markey brought forward, it won't die because all the presidential candidates got a Green New Deal. And I got one, too. I think I got the best one, most detailed budget. You go on my website, click on a line item, it'll tell you how we got the cost and how many jobs it'll create.
Where's your website, Howie?
It's howiehawkins.us.
So I see various topics, the Green Deal, climate and ecology, peace initiatives, economic Bill of Rights. Can you let the individuals know a bit more about the basis of your campaign and what sets yourself apart from not only other Green Party candidates running, but just candidates overall?
Well, we're funded by our people. We're not funded by corporate interests. We're different than the Democratic and Republican candidates, with the exception of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who are drawing on individuals. But that's something that we've always stood for, because we want to represent the people, not these big special interests. The issues I'm campaigning on, there are a lot of issues. That palm card you're looking at has, 30, 40 bullet points, and that isn't all the issues. But I sort of, in my stump speech, say there are 3 life and death issues we've got to face. The climate crisis, inequality, it kills. We now have a 20-year life expectancy gap between our richest and poorest counties. Inequality has been growing since the 1970s. The 2 major parties have no idea what to do with it. So our Green New Deal is a green economy reconstruction program to deal with the climate crisis and an economic Bill of Rights to deal with the inequality crisis. And then the 3rd life or death issue is this new nuclear arms race. We are building new nuclear weapons, strategic, submarine, land, air. They're 6 times faster than the old ones, hypersonic. It's not even launch on warning. It's launch when you think the other might launch, so you don't get wiped out in the first strike. We're on it's 2 minutes to midnight, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Meanwhile, we're out of the nuclear treaties. 2 years ago, 122 nations agreed to a treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons. The campaign to abolish nuclear weapons got the Nobel Peace Prize for that. And I doubt there's 1 in 1,000 Americans that know that. None of the major party candidates are talking about it. So what I'm hoping the Green Party, not just our presidential ticket, but our congressional candidates, all our candidates, put this issue into the campaign. We should get the United States to pledge no first use of nuclear weapons, unilaterally disarm to a minimum credible deterrent, and on the basis of that, then approach the other nuclear powers which didn't participate in drafting this new treaty to seriously negotiate complete nuclear disarmament, which has been on the agenda since the Non-Proliferation Treaty passed in 1970, and the nuclear powers have not really pursued it, except for a brief moment when Gorbachev and Reagan kind of came up to it but then backed off. And to me, these 3 issues got to be addressed. That's why we need the Green Party out here, because the major parties don't have answers. They're not talking about these issues in a serious way.
Wow. The major parties, the two-party system, you mean the one-party system that's beholden by the powers that be, right? Those individuals that don't represent the people, right?
Well, I think the Green New Deal is a good example. When it went to the Senate, Pelosi won't let them vote on the non-binding resolution, which, first of all, the Democrats took a brand that we had of the Green New Deal and watered down the content. And there's no ban on fracking and new fossil fuel infrastructure. They extended the deadline from 2030 to 2050. They don't talk about cutting military spending in order to put that money into clean energy. But even with that watered-down version, Pelosi won't let them vote on it. And then on the Senate side, McConnell, old Wiley's leader, said, oh, we'll let you vote on it because half you Democrats in the Senate are running for president. Get them on the record. And Schumer said, oh, it's a trick. Y'all should vote present, not for it. And all those good little Democratic senators did, except for it, and voted with Republicans against it. And that shows that the Democrats and the Republicans are opposed to the Green New Deal, even though 80% of the people are for it. And when the election's over and they get behind closed doors, yeah, they cut deals. They're not solving the people's problems, but they are, like, upping the military budget. You know, we spend as much as the rest of the world combined. We have 800 foreign military bases. You know, is that promoting world peace, or is that creating resistance and people fighting back from being occupied by our country? I think it's the latter. I think we should be the world's humanitarian superpower, make friends instead of enemies, instead of being the global military empire.
I agree with you. It's time for us to not only unite throughout the United States of America, but throughout the world, all countries. And it's getting candidates elected like yourself. We may not agree with all the viewpoints of specific candidates. I know at free and equal elections, what we really support are candidates that speak their mind, that speak their truth, that aren't controlled by big money, but speak what is true to them. And I really am so grateful that you're just fighting the good fight, right? And running for president as the Green Party.
I appreciate you, because, there's a lot of talk about voter suppression. It's a big issue. Photo IDs for, people being able to vote, and the gerrymandering and all this stuff. But, party suppression is part of voter suppression. And we're off the charts. You want to run for the House of Commons in England? 10 signatures. You want to run for Congress in a third party or independent in this country? It's thousands of signatures in a short period of time. When Putin denied these Moscow City Council people the ability to run because they had high petition requirements, they said they didn't satisfy them, they got that from the United States. We need to have fair ballot access. And that's why, I appreciate the work you've been doing on with Free and Equal, because until we have a multi-party democracy and everybody who's serious can get on the ballot, we can't criticize other countries about their lack of democracy till we clean up our own house.
True. And, Howie, I know you're running with the Green Party. I truly see you as an individual, and I see all the candidates, whether they're running as a Democrat, Republican, an alternative party like a Green Party, Libertarian, Constitution Party, and so on, or even as an independent. At Free and Equal Elections, we see all of you as an individual. And we do foresee that there will be, through our blockchain election system app, we'll be launching next year through our United We Stand tour. We had 5 stops this year. We plan to return and add more on next year. Through this app, we'll list all candidates like yourself. And so people can go and see and learn more about Howie Hawkins. They can learn about who donates to his campaign. I'm pretty sure people will approve who donates to your campaign. I'm getting that sense. And eventually incorporate online debates. We plan to hold our 2020 presidential debate next year. The United We Stand will present, the final stop of the 2020 United We Stand tour will present our 2020 presidential debate. So just know if you happen to be nominated or whoever within the Green Party, you're more than welcome to be a part of that debate, just like Jill Stein has been in the past.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a good function. You know, last year, governor's race in New York, Governor Cuomo wouldn't debate us. I debated him the previous 2 cycles. And I ran into him in Central Park. MSNBC has this corporate anti-poverty thing. And so I spoke, and he was coming in his own security perimeter. And I ran into him, our eyes catched. And I said, Governor, I'm looking forward to our next debate. And he got this look, you know, furrowed brow, like, what debate? Like his aides hadn't told him. I said, oh, we should have a series of debates. And then he figured out I was like, not talking about a debate that had been scheduled. So he said, well, what are you going to do, Howie? Organize them yourself? And then he spun on his heel and walked to the green room. And I said as he's walking away, if I have to. So, you know, I called the media. They were tailing the governor. You know, they're gutless. They should organize it, not let the big parties and politicians set the terms. But the League of Women Voters in New York, they organized the debate. Good for them. And unfortunately, the media didn't cover it. And unfortunately, Cuomo didn't show up. But the Republican did. The Libertarian did, I did, the Green Party candidate, and then there was this, my former mayor was running on a thing called Serve America movement. So they organized the debate. So like the League of Women Voters, we need civic organizations to push the envelope here, because right now between the parties and the corporate media, they're having these limited debates with the establishment pick candidates, and the people aren't getting their choices. I think that's why in 2016. A lot of people say the white working class voted for Trump. You look at the numbers, no, they stayed home because they couldn't stand Trump or Clinton. And that's the problem. They didn't have choices they knew about. The second biggest group of those voters voted for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson, the Green and the Libertarian. A very tiny group flipped from Obama to Trump. So that's the problem. We got to give people all their choices, and then we'll get better voter turnout, and I think better results, because, the working class people are the majority, and if they come out right now, people say they're apathetic. I say they're alienated because they don't think either party represents them, and they don't want to be part of the system. But with more choices, they'll feel they have a stake in it.
It seems like we, the people, are the majority, right? We are the 99%. They are the 1%.
Yeah, I think that's another way it was phrased during Occupy. And it makes the basic point, right?
Well, I definitely, I wanted to speak briefly about the presidential debates and then kind of wrap up on things Free and Equal's really passionate about. I'm seeing that you're a supporter of ranked choice voting. It seems in proportional representation, popular vote. Very cool. On the presidential debates front, it was actually working as Ralph Nader's 2008 National Ballot Access Coordinator when he ran as an independent for president. I would have done it for Dr. Ron Paul as well had he ran as an independent, but the reason he didn't, he said, was because of the restrictive ballot access laws. But it was Ralph Nader, when I went to DNC, it happened to be just him and I, and he looked at all of the media and said, I could interview with every member of the media here right now, and I would only reach 3 to 5% of what the Commission on Presidential Debates reaches. And I was like, what is the Commission on Presidential Debates? And learned that it's run by the former chairs of the Democratic and Republican Party. Big corporate money controls it. The League of Women Voters retracted their support from the CPD in 1988, stating it has perpetuated a fraud on the American voters. And that was a spark in the creation of free and equal elections, Howie, when we hosted our first presidential debate in 2008 at the Mayflower with Ralph Nader and Chuck Baldwin. That's about as far left-right you can get. Yeah. And it was nationally televised, the only time a presidential debate outside of the CPD has been nationally televised. So I really am passionate in helping to get you into the debates, or at least invite you if you get nominated to our presidential debate, which I feel can be trusted. We're really there to help spread your viewpoints to the masses.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You know, commission on presidential debates sounds like a government commission. Sounds like it's official. It's supposed to be fair, but it's a private corporation owned by the two major parties, designed to keep the rest of us out. And that's a message we got to get to the people. And I think debates you organize, we got to support those, because I think that kind of pressure will get the corporate media, you know, out of the pocket of the two major parties and maybe broadening their perspective on what's out here.
Well, Howie, thank you. I agree with you. I think we need to rid of gerrymandering. We saw what happened with Dennis Kucinich. He's spoken to me about that, about how that resulted in him not getting reelected, to the flaws of the voting machines being owned by Diebold, Dominion. That's all tied to money and powers that be. And then there's the restricted ballot access barriers, like you said. I mean, if an independent wants to run for president, this cycle, it's going to take him or her 800,000 signatures to get on the ballot versus only 25,000 as a Democrat or Republican. I mean, that's unethical. That's immoral, unconstitutional.
And when you say 800,000, you really mean 1.6 million, because you got to double the number of signatures, because the two major parties are going to scrutinize them, and they're going to get, you know, lawyers to challenge on trivial items and bog you down defending your petition and drag it out. I mean, I've run for Congress where the Democrat challenged my signatures. He knew they were good. It was trivial. And then, you know, it had to go through a hearing and then to court. And we didn't get it resolved till like just before the ballots had to be printed in early October. And the whole time he's saying, I can't be in debates because I'm not on the ballot. You know, that's the game they play. And, you know, in the end, I'm on the ballot. And fortunately, as time went on, the media kind of figured out what the Democrats' game was. So they started including me. But in original campaigns, the earlier ones I ran, yeah, you're not on the ballot, we can't include you. And so, yeah, there's no real ethics in the way they act about this. It's all about power and getting it any way they can. And they'll cheat, they'll lie, and perhaps steal. I mean, we saw that down in that North Carolina district. You know, the guy stuffing the ballot with paper ballots, that Republican. They just had to have a special election about that. So, yeah, there's a lot we got to fix.
Well, our motto is, I mean, it seems like every problem stems from having the wrong people in office. So through United We Stand tour and that blockchain election assistant app that we'll be launching, we foresee that igniting the movement to replace most, if not every, member of Congress, targeting the congressional races and eventually every race. And so I'm excited you're running. Thank you, Howie, again. For being here. I could keep going on, but we'll just have to interview again in the future. I mean, I love that you're ranked choice voting. We interviewed with Fair Vote earlier yesterday about ranked choice voting, or ranked choice national
must have been somebody with my campaign. I was at the Socialist Party convention getting their nominee yesterday.
Yay,
so
congratulations.
We're building a coalition on the left. But, yeah, I haven't even got to the Fair Vote booth yet. I'm looking forward to that.
Check it out, and the U.S. term limit. So, Howie Hawkins, your website again, where can people go?
HowieHawkins.us.
All right, HowieHawkins.us. Seeking the nomination for the Green Party of the United States for president, that is, of the United States. Thank you, Howie, for joining us on the Free and Equal Network. Have a beautiful and blessed day, everyone.